All right, what's going on? This is a master class that we're doing for the sound musician. And this is actually the second week. So it's been good and a lot of pieces to the puzzle in terms of constructing all of this stuff and setting it all up. But it's all good, I enjoy doing it. And so on today, we will be talking about assessing where you are in terms of your skill level, and we're going to talk about setting goals. All right. So with these Zoom calls, um, from week to week, we'll be doing a live Zoom, so you'll get a chance to get on with me here live, and then get a chance to ask questions and kind of chime in. So I'll be having something that I'm going to be addressing, and then you can take notes, or if you had something that you wanted me to cover, you can ask me here in the Zoom. So we're going to get started. And so let's talk about first assessing where you are with your skill, your current skill level. We're going to talk about setting goals. All right. Now, all right. So y'all know how I've been here lately. I've been talking about systems, and I've been talking about keeping track of where you are in your process. And so um, it's very good to know what your strengths are and know what your weaknesses are. Um, and so also you can set your goals around um, the the duties that you have. If you have, for instance, if you have gigs coming up, music that you have to learn or prepare for the gig, um, it keeps you on track when you actually can open up a doc. Excuse me, open up a like a Google Doc, which is what I do a lot of times. I'll just open up a Google Doc and I'll put down the things that I need to work on. Um, and so it's very important too if you categorize them from the standpoint, uh, if we're talking about, uh, you know, if we're so let's think about it like this. Um, if you want to focus on, categorically music, so you have music, and then you'll have business. And so you can go underneath those umbrellas and say, okay, musically, if we talk about the music side, um, where are you in your current level? So it's like if you have a goal, you want to be able to play a certain tune, um, and you want to be able to solo over that tune. That's a goal. You know what I'm saying? So that goes under the music category. All right. So if I jump, I'm just thinking blimp view, first overall. And then if we skip to the business category, then you'll have, um, like, let's say a certain dollar amount that you want to make um, monthly, you know. And then you can think about, okay, how am I going to accomplish that? What do I want to do? What's natural for me? It could be gigs, or it could be, you know, teaching students. And then you can dial into specifics from there, from the standpoint, like what type of gigs. Are they solo gigs by yourself with tracks, or are they side man gigs? Um, or is it, gigs that you want with your own band, you know? And so once you have categorically put things in place, then, and you got a visual, you got something that you can go to and look at and see um, where you are, then the next time you come back to practice, or to deal with those things that are on in your Google Doc, it'll keep you on track, to know, okay. So, for instance, when we go back to the music side, we have a song. And so one of the things we talked about last week was Blues for Alice. And so let's say we wanted to work on the melody, and we learned the melody. And this is something that you could put on your Google Doc under music. The goal is to learn the tune and be able to solo over that particular one. And so you just take a mental note, um, or I mean, you're using it as a mental note to help you know where you are. Um, so once you go back and you look at your Google Doc and you say, okay, I worked on this, and then like I told you, you can drill down to specifics as to what songs you want to work on, and even uh, you remember how I talked about you got your technique side, and then you have your concept side. Now we're dialing into the specifics. We're going from the blimp view into the specific view, and we're dealing with the technique, the technical things from like playing scales, bebop scales, and you want to make sure or try to focus on making what you work on with your technique connect to what you're working on the concept side. So even to go specifically into that, like um, my man mentioned here, uh, he mentioned he was watching the video about like bebop scales, and so that would be a good one to apply technically, so that you can apply that to something like um, Blues for Alice, right? Now, now I'm digging into specifics. I talked about what I wanted to practice, or I categorized things, and I got it written down. So I'm going through this in my head, you know. But for you, you can write it down, and yours is going to be different. But I'm just giving you an example, and so how you can dial into the specifics. So when we look at something like the bebop scale, so he went into the classroom area, and he found something on bebop scales. And so we talked about that as well. So if we have a bebop scale, a major bebop scale, you know, something as simple like that. And let's say we want to practice getting that under our fingers. Now, you can make it fun where you can practice your technique but use the changes from something like Blues for Alice. So you have to know the changes. So if it's so you got one bar of the D major on alto, and then you're gonna go two beats um, a piece. The changes are gonna move. So you got to know what those scales are, those modes, you know. So I was able to play all 8 notes of the bebop scale going up because it was 4 beats on that C. But once I get to the that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I would have to let's see what I would do there. So first of all, I need to know what that scale is. So it's a minor 7 flat 5, and so usually you can put the flat 9 in there too. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you would have to switch to the next chord. So so here's the thing that makes it really fun. Um, when you want to apply scales to the changes of a song, make it feel, make the scales connect comfortably to where when you're practicing something like this, you're not jumping all over the place intervallically because you just want to make it feel good. So if I know that I'm gonna have to do 4 beats or 4 notes for each change on something like Blues for Alice. So that's just something I just created based on what sounded good and linearly what fit. So if you don't know the the scale that corresponds with that chord, then you need to go and specifically outline that. So if we deal with the C sharp minor 7 flat 5, so or we can say another way to look at it is the Locrian. So that means if it's D major, you go down a half step or go to the 7th degree of D, which is C sharp, and then you would play in the key of D, but you would just be on C sharp. So what we would do is, since I only got 4 notes before I have to change to the F sharp, and that F sharp is a F sharp altered. Now this is diminished whole tone, so that means you got the first half of the lick is diminished, and then the next half is whole tone. Now, here's the deal. So if I'm going to do the scale ascending to start on that D, once I get to the C sharp, minor 7 flat 5, then I probably need to descend, And so if I'm a descend, I need to play something that sounds natural. And so this is how improvisation happens, because you start off with, first of all, you got to know the chords, and then you got to know the scales that correspond with the chords. And the whole point of improvisation is you want to create melodies using the information, and also you use your ear, because your ear is going to kind of tell you what is the best sound according to the way you hear it. So if I say, now I did something different. What is that? That's an enclosure. All right. And so here's where I'll always talk about, usually when you're hearing or checking out improvisation, you're going to hear linear lines, arpeggios, and enclosures. Now, this is the reason why when you first start learning jazz or you're trying to build your vocabulary, we always start you with playing your scales, playing your arpeggios, playing the modes. You got to go through all of the you got to go through all of that. You got to go through you got to go through all of that, just because you got to prepare yourself for being able to apply it over the changes. And then you got to work on your enclosures. And so a lot of these things I have videos on, specifics of like enclosures, linear lines, and bebop scales. A lot of that you can find in the classroom area, approaching changes. You can go look around in there and see me talk about a lot of these things in details. And so, but if we're going to apply those concepts to playing over a tune, then we're going to need to use from time to time arpeggios and also enclosures to help connect the changes together, because we can play a whole scale when it's a whole 1, 2, 3, 4 beats. But once you start doing 2 beats, a change every 2 beats, then you got to start using arpeggios. You got to start using some enclosures just to connect things. Okay. So let's finish it out. Now, I'm just going based on what I'm hearing and what sounds natural. Now, the key is you have to do it slow enough so that you can be able to execute the things that you're hearing. All right. And what I like to do, if you have uh, Drum Genius, that's the app with the guy with the green face. It has all of the drum. Um, it has all the drum grooves in there. And so let's see if I put it on medium slow swing. Okay. Let me see if I can Bluetooth it to my speaker here. And so I like to use Drum Genius to practice because it helps me to. Okay, I didn't connect to the right thing. There it is. Okay, it said it's connected, so I just need to hear it. There it is. Okay, cool. There we go. Now, I can use something like Drum Genius to uh, to practice. So I'm able to hear the line, you know? And so if you think about what I just did, I was just playing easy linear lines, arpeggios, or enclosures to help connect the changes. And I'm trying to play consistent eighth notes. All right. Now, how do you get to that point? Now, you have to hear, first of all, you got to hear the language. And hearing comes from listening. Like the Bible says, faith comes by hearing. And so the more you hear, the more it increases your faith or increasing your hearing. You know what I'm saying? It encourages you. So the more you listen to different artists and they're playing their vocabulary, the more that language or dialect and all of that will be in your ear. Even if you don't understand it, you need to hear it. The more you hear it, the more you understand it. So, but also you got to practice it and you got to transcribe. And so I get all the time, how do you apply what you transcribe to the things that you're working on, or to be able to do it when you play? So what ends up happening is the more you transcribe, the more you listen, you're basically training your mind and you're storing this stuff subconsciously. In terms of your ability to be able to execute what you're hearing, it's all about timing. So for instance, when I have this on, I got it on a good tempo that I can actually think about and hear and play. So it's three different areas that are engaged in the brain, our motor cortex, our audio cortex, and visual cortex. Even if you're not reading something, you're visualizing, you're imagining something. And so I'm imagining the changes. I see certain abstract things about this tune. And so I'm thinking about it. And so with the tempo or with the parameters that are set when you got a set tempo, you have to execute in that particular time and you can't drop any beats. So you got to put it at a speed that's comfortable for you to be able to do everything without fumbling. All right. So now I'm going to play the changes. All right. So now, obviously, I feel comfortable at that tempo. I can play arpeggios, I can play scales, I can play enclosures, and I'm connecting it because everything is able to, I'm able to do all of those things at that particular tempo. It feels comfortable. So what would I do to challenge myself, or what would you do to challenge yourself if you're having trouble at that tempo? If it's challenging there, you got to slow it down, okay? If it's not, if it feels good, then go ahead and speed it up. Uh-oh, I'm already on a medium tempo, so what I got to do is change categories. So I'm going to go out of here, and I got to choose like a medium up, up tempo, something like that, that way. Because, they have it to where if you want something a little drastically different, I'm going to go medium upswing. So let's see what I got. All right, let's do this one. That's a good one. All right, here we go. Now, okay. So anyway, so I feel comfortable there, okay? But the whole point is, in order for you to juggle playing scales over the changes, arpeggios, enclosures, um, playing melodies and everything for you to hear. You got to play it slow enough. So if you can't play those things, if you don't know the changes, then you got to start first with being able to play those scales that are associated with the changes, first and foremost. Then put your metronome on and just play the scales. Y'all remember how when we first used to start with learning changes, we would outline the arpeggios. We would play the arpeggios, play the roots, play 1-3-5, 1-3-5-7, and go through the whole tune until you have the whole, have the changes down. And I'm talking about by memory. Okay? So you want to definitely work to have that done. So let's look at the time. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, we're almost at 30 minutes. So there we go again. We were able to finish that particular portion within 30 minutes. So, questions? Any questions that you have from what I covered so far?
Okay, I had
Okay,
a
I had a
question.
question. Okay, let me turn it down. Go ahead.
Okay, my
Okay, my
question
question
is,
is
the second beat you had for instance, the second beat you go into a 2-5, 2-5, 2-5-1. When you're dealing with the 2-5, do you focus on the one emphasizing the two and the five and then go to the next measure, or do you go uh, specifically like to the E minor, to the A7, and so forth? Does that make sense?
Am I thinking about the the key center, or am I thinking about
The key center,
the?
yes.
Okay, no. It's kind of hard. So it's more so. So think of it like this. I'm more so leaning on what I hear. Now, of course, what I'm playing is related to the key center, but it's more so um, the melody, the way that the previous line um, leads you to the next line. You know, the next group. Because yes, you could think key center because all the 2-5 is just related. You can relate it and just go to the one. You know what I'm saying? So you could group each 2-5 together to where you just looking at playing in one particular key. But um, what makes what makes it bebop is more so when you're able to maneuver through um, each mode. So E minor is a mode, A7 is a mode. That's just two, the second mode and the fifth mode of D major. But yeah, that's true. If I would just wanted to think D major, it would work. But when you're playing in the style of bebop, or you're approaching this like that, with bebop approach is mostly you're outlining each change. Make sense? Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, that makes sense. My next question is this, I know this is bebop and this is straight ahead, but can you apply this to R&B or contemporaries?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, what ends up happening is, um, it's kind of you go from specifics with bebop to general over a groove, or like playing contemporary. So it's mostly more modal approach. You're usually playing in a general key uh, uh, what do you call it, center. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, if you look at something like Mr. Magic, you know, So something like that, you're just going from A minor on alto to D7. Um, but we know that you can, if you come from a jazz background or more straight ahead background, you got so many options. You got way more um, tools or like options to explore from the standpoint of harmonically, to where you don't have to just lean on playing A minor pentatonic. And so if I put it on a groove, for instance, um, okay, let me find a good groove. There we go. That's a good one. All right. So once you've dug deep, into straight ahead, and you know your modes, and you've done, you know, played through your different modes. So let's say like G major. This is going from A minor 7 to D7, and so I'm gonna give you the different options in the way that I think about it, with what I understand as a straight ahead player. So you can start. So now I can think one mode for starts. So as soon as I hit that, I opened up a different mode. That's D7. Okay, so you see how I went into all of these different options, So I started off general with just playing like it was A minor. But then I was like, okay, I can emphasize D7. Then I started thinking about, okay, I can play in G major, and then I can play off of the E altered. You know what I'm saying? I got all of this information because I practiced um, bebop, you know? And so that's kind of what you get. It's not a thing to where um, you can pinpoint, okay, how if I practice on Blues for Alice, how can all of this come out when I play I don't know, it just depends, because the whole point is it kind of goes back to what I was saying. The more you listen and the more you practice and try to do this stuff, it'll, like, over time you get to the point where you'll hear it. I think that's the main thing. Like, when you can play the bebop and play everything and learn it and you working on it, then you'll be on a gig and you'll start hearing. It's like you'll hear something else, like, or the changes will trigger something that you practice, and you're able to kind of branch outside of just playing one mode. Because I hear, plenty of players, they'll just work that one mode. They'll just be like, and it's it's beauty in that. Just sticking to just one mode. I mean, that's a beautiful thing to be able to do as well. what I'm saying? You can stay there and think about playing melodies and rhythm with just one mode, but once you've gone over these other modes, then you can kind of it's like you got a bigger playing field, but you got to hear it though. I think that's the main thing. It's not a matter of trying to force something that you're not hearing. It's more so because we all go through the process. It was a time when I didn't hear it, I didn't get it, but it's just the more I dug into it's kind of like this. Um, it's more so instead of thinking about a means to an end, like you've probably heard this before, just enjoy the journey. And then before you know it, you are doing stuff that you couldn't do like months back just because you wasn't thinking about just trying to play the stuff you practice over a different style. It was more so you enjoy the pursuit and the journey to where now you're playing and you're hearing it naturally because you're not trying to force it. And I think that's like the takeaway. And I read this book called Atomic Habits. And one of the things that they talk about is like, you have to create an environment that will affect your habits to the point if there's goals and there's things that you want to do, if you're doing it or something is reminding you to practice or to work on this thing or to listen, and you're doing it little by little every day, then over the course of a year, you would have 300 times, 300x, whatever it is that you're aiming for, but it's just a part of your natural routine every day. So it's like if you set your bar above just being able to play bebop or different harmonic approaches over something that only has one chord, if you just dig into learning different songs and transcribing and listening, what'll end up happening, you'll just start hearing different because your brain will change. Like your awareness will change. So it's like you're not even thinking just A minor anymore. Like you're not even hearing just A minor. You hearing some other stuff because you got all of these other options that's just spinning in your head. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you will cause your own mind to shift to another it'll have more information. You know what I'm saying? So you're limited by what you understand. The more you understand, then your brain ain't even the same anymore. So it's like you don't know what you don't know until you know it, and then it changes your whole outlook on where you were. So that's kind of how it works. All right. So all right. So what I like to do with that, we can put a pin there. We went over um, how to actually dig into those things to apply the things that we have under the music category.